Hello, I'm Jennifer Keller, the Programming Coordinator at the Westport Library with poet Jane Hirshfield. In honor of National Poetry Month and the hashtag Shelter in Poetry campaign, we at the library are celebrating the art of the poem. Thank you for joining me, Jane.
I'm very glad to be here. Thank you.
So, if you don't know, Jane Hirshfield is a poet, essayist, and translator, and is the author of 9 collections of poetry, including the recently published Ledger. And now I'm going to list a few of her extensive accomplishments. She has been a poet in residence at both the H.J. Andrews Experimental Forest in Oregon and a neuroscience research program at UCSF. Hirshfield has been a visiting poet at Stanford University and UC Berkeley, and her awards include fellowships from the National Endowment of the Arts, the Rockefeller Foundation, the Guggenheim Foundation, the Poetry Center Award, Columbia University's Translation Center Award, and the California Book Award, as well as having not 1, but 10 selections in the Best American Poetry books. She recently received the Academy Fellowship from the Academy of American Poets, was elected Chancellor of the Academy of American Poets, and last year, Jane was included in the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. So we are very honored to have you, and we thank you for your time in advance, Jane. And let's get started with, would you share a bit of information about your new book, Ledger, and the inspiration behind it?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So Ledger was published March 10th, which is, for me at least, the day the world changed. That was the day that everything began closing down for the pandemic, and all my future events began canceling. And what is odd about the book is that it was written to speak into other crises. It was written, first of all, to speak into the crisis of the biosphere and the crises of social justice. There are also poems in it that speak to the interior private life crises that all of us navigate all of our lives. And somehow many of the poems in it speak now into this current pandemic crisis that they could not have imagined in any way when they were being written. But it's a book, as all my books are, taking account of the unaccountable. My books simply contain the poems I've written during the 5 or 6 years before they come out, and these have been deeply unaccountable 5 or 6 years. What do you do when you're bewildered? What do you do when you're astonished? The first thing you do is try to take stock. And so that's why the book is called Ledger. It is a book of stock taking and of trying to find some way to face and navigate unfathomable things.
Ooh, so would you share a poem from the collection now?
I will. So I thought, in choosing the poem to read today, I'm choosing one I didn't expect to, which is a poem about surprise. Because I think one thing all of us are deeply and profoundly right now is surprised by the life we each are leading, the world we are finding ourselves in. And also I chose it because it has a small reference to libraries at the end. I wanted to be surprised. To such a request, the world is obliging. In just the past week, a rotund porcupine who seemed equally startled by me. The man who swallowed a tiny microphone to record the sounds of his body, not considering beforehand how he might remove it. A cabbage and mustard sandwich on marbled bread. How easily the large spiders were caught with a clear plastic cup surprised even them. I don't know why I was surprised every time love started or ended, or why each time a new fossil, Earth-like planet, or war, or that no one kept being there when the doorknob had clearly. What should not have been so surprising, my error after error, recognized when appearing on the faces of others, What did not surprise enough? My daily expectation that anything would continue, and then that so much did continue when so much did not. Small rivulets still flowing downhill when it wasn't raining. A sister's birthday. Also, the stubborn, courteous persistence that even today, please means please. Good morning is still understood as good morning. And that when I wake up, the window's distant mountain remains a mountain. The borrowed city around me is still a city and standing. Its alleys and markets, offices of dentists, drugstore, liquor store, Chevron. Its library that charges, a happy surprise, no fine for overdue books. Borges, Baldwin, Zimborska, Morrison, Cavafy.
Ooh, that does speak very much to what's going on right now, I will say.
It is
So
uncanny that it does. I don't know if you charge fines for overdue books or not. Forgive me if you do.
actually, currently we are not, so that's fine. So is there a poet or a poem that you turn to when you're having a rough time, or I don't know, find yourself sitting at home during a pandemic?
So there's one poem that for decades now has been my touchstone poem for difficult times. And it's a poem I actually co-translated with a Japanese collaborator, Mariko Aratani, for a collection called The Ink Dark Moon. It was written 1,000 years ago by a Japanese woman poet, and it speaks to the way that you cannot cut yourself off from the difficult without cutting yourself off from the wanted, the beautiful, the desired. It's only 5 lines long. It's in a form called the tanka.
Oh,
Although
great.
the wind blows terribly here, the moonlight also leaks between the roof planks of this ruined house. Did I say it again? It's
Oh, that was, yes, please do say that one more time.
although the wind blows terribly here, the moonlight also leaks between the roof planks of this ruined house.
That is so beautiful. And yes, it does make you think of moving forward to an extent. Yeah.
And recognizing that in any moment, however hard, however seemingly unnavigable, you can look over and see a dragonfly. You can walk out your door and see the stars. Somebody will offer some unexpected kindness from however far away. You will read a story and you realize that the moonlight is always there. It's there in the daytime. It's there in the clouds. It is always available if we could only see it. And
Mm,
this brings me great solace.
yes, I can see that. So now, while you've been home for now over 1 month, have you been writing? And would you share a poem that you've written during this time?
I'd be glad to. I wrote a poem the very first day that the Bay Area's 6 counties went into shelter-in-place protocols. And that first morning was so startlingly silent that the part of me which needs to understand great change by writing poems simply found itself sitting on my windowsill and wrote this poem. Today, when I could do nothing. Today, when I could do nothing, I saved an ant. It must have come in with the morning paper, still being delivered to those who shelter in place. A morning paper is still an essential service. I am not an essential service. I have coffee and books, time, a garden, silence enough to fill cisterns. It must have first walked the morning paper as if loosened ink taking the shape of an ant. then across the laptop computer, warm, then onto the back of a cushion. Small black ant, alone, crossing a navy cushion, moving steadily because that is what it could do. Set outside in the sun, it could not have found again its nest. What then did I save? It did not move as if it was frightened, even while walking my hand, which moved it through swiftness and air. Ant alone, without companions, whose ant heart I could not fathom. How is your life? I wanted to ask. I lifted it, took it outside. This first day when I could do nothing, contribute nothing beyond staying distant from my own kind, I did this.
Thank you, Jane. That was beautiful. And I hope the ant found its nest anyway.
I hope it did as well. I emailed an entomologist friend after I had written it and asked, and he said their ability to track ant pheromones is actually very strong, and it just might have.
Oh, good. That's definitely the happy ending that I think we all want these days.
We do. But again, you know, there's always, just like there's always that moonlight, there's always something we can do. And I know for me, so, you know, I wrote the poem after I did the thing. I mean, it actually happened. I did take the ant and put it outside. And I think there's always something we can do. You know, some people are sewing masks. Some people are phoning their lonely friends. Some people are moving ants back outside. And it's the great antidote to despair, to find anything you can do that might help others. And helping others is always, I think, the best way to help oneself.
Thank you so much for sharing with the Westport Library community, Jane. For you at home, be sure to read more of Ledger, either by buying it through your favorite book retailer or through the library's catalog. And for more author videos and information about the Westport Library, remember to visit westportlibrary.org. Thank you so much for your time, Jane.
It has been a great pleasure talking with you. Thank you.